Hi, I'm Sarah Cowgill, along with Andrew Moran, Dave Patterson, Graham Noble, and John Clark, and this is The Conservative Five, an online TV production of Liberty Nation News. President Joe Biden is about to walk away from a destabilized Middle East and a bloody war in Ukraine. In 4 years, Mr. Biden has turned the clock back on international relations between the U.S. and China, the realignment of allies with Russia and China, and Iran is skulking around in the back looking for an opening to wreak havoc. Quite the inheritance for Donald Trump to try to turn back the clock on this kind of chaos. What we are hearing is that nuclear weapons are not off the table for Ukraine if peace talks end badly. So where are we with all of the international players on the world stage? Dave, I mean, this is all confusing to most people.
Well, to keep the world stage metaphor going, the scenery is chaotic. An audience really wouldn't know if they're watching Cats or My Fair Lady. As far as the nuclear weapons, Jake Sullivan has come out categorically and said that nuclear weapons are off the table, period. But, NATO and Ukraine are in confusion, over a situation that's their own making. Biden has just authorized $725 million in counter drone and mobile rocket systems. And many believe that the ammunition for the rocket systems are more ATACMS, which makes Russia extremely excited. There's no end state strategy after all this time. And it's interesting, however, that since Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky met with President Trump, he now entertains a ceasefire in place, which effectively, cedes land to Russia that it's captured. I think he believes his ace in the hole is immediate NATO membership, but that is by no means likely to happen anytime soon. And what he can count on, though, is that if there's a ceasefire, that Trump will make sure that the Russian President Putin honors it. And I think that's something that Biden could never have pulled off. And then you turn to the Middle East. And oh, my goodness, President-elect Trump's warning that the terrorists give up hostages or they'll be hell to pay. Fortunately, he doesn't say who's going to be paying, and I suspect that he has Iran in mind. And I'll bet you Iran thinks so too. Yeah, Syria is ablaze, and in what can only be categorized as a say what moment, reports from Israel are that Bashar al-Assad has asked Israel, the Israeli government, for help in defeating Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, the opposition forces that have just captured the city of Aleppo. You can't make this stuff up. The Syrian army forces just cut and ran out of that city. Reporting from Israel also suggests that Israel might entertain that idea like they did in 2012. But the catch here is that they're going to have to remove all the Iranians and Iranian proxies from Syria.
Is there an ability to stay in some sort of plateau with everything that's going on everywhere? This isn't just one little, messed up dictatorial leader, that we're fussing with. So, can we stabilize before Trump is sworn in? And will Trump be able to change the course we are on, Graham? I mean, what is that even possible at this point?
Well, I don't think, look, Trump is not a military man, and he's never had any particular stomach for, kind of large scale military missions or adventures that involve U.S. forces. I think Trump is much more likely to use economic, if you like, threats, economic weapons. He's likely to, leverage foreign aid and stuff like that against some of these countries to make them, kind of calm down and quieten down and do what they're told, so to speak. So I actually do believe that Trump will kind of manage to prevent any one of these countries from kind of hurling towards the abyss and going into an all-out kind of large-scale international or global military conflict. And I think he'll do it by negotiations using the power of the US dollar, such as it is. Now, the problem is what happens between, okay, we're coming up now on Inauguration Day. It's only a few weeks away, but an awful lot can happen within a few weeks. And one wonders just how bad this situation could get in any one of these places. Syria, as Dave alluded to, that, the Syria is practically just been almost kind of ripped apart by this new surprise takeover in Aleppo. And then, you've got Israel still fighting Hezbollah, and of course the Ukraine thing, which is, who knows when that war can end. But then again, I think maybe Trump will, at some point within his, I was going to say his first term, is actually his second term, and also his last term in the White House. I believe that he will bring some kind of maybe not permanent but lasting ceasefire, or even maybe some kind of peace treaty. And again, I think he'll do it by kind of threatening both sides behind the scenes. He's got plenty of leverage with Ukraine, because he can just say, look, we're just not giving you any more money, we're not giving you any more weapons, you better come to a deal with Putin, even if it means ceding land, which it probably inevitably will, I think. I think that war will end with Ukraine being a smaller country than it is now.
Mr. Clark, Trump and his new BFF. I mean, Kennedy is so anti-war. And Trump wants to end all of this struggle and strife. And Graham gave us a lot of ideas on how maybe that could happen. But will he do it?
Well, so you've raised a few issues there, and I wouldn't want to diminish in any way what Graham had to say there. But I think it goes maybe a step too far. I actually think that it's not even that calculated by this administration. I think this administration has had its hands tied over Israel for political reasons in its domestic run. It couldn't act on either side. It has been paralyzed. Donald Trump will not have that problem. Donald Trump is also anti-war. I've met so many ex-military people who say that they never bombed or killed as many people under Donald Trump's presidency as they did under Democrats before and after him. I don't think there's any conflict between Kennedy and Trump in seeking to get us out of wars. I think Graham's dead on about Ukraine. I think that Putin has been looking for a way out of that conflict for years and presented opportunities to this current administration, which were rebuffed. All it required was to not make Ukraine part of NATO. And Zelensky seems to already have seen the writing on the wall. Trump doesn't have to use economics to impose his power. There's a new sheriff in town. If Donald Trump is the president and he says to Iran, just don't, the world won't erupt in a cackle. All right, of laughter, because Biden just has no credibility on the world stage. Now, bad actors may be rushing to do all their bad acting before he comes in, and that may be what's going on in Syria and North Korea. But once he comes in, it seems to be that his presence alone, whether it's Hamas or Russia, is going to become a complete game changer, because they know that he's not paralyzed and impotent the way the current administration has been. So I think he can actually bring about peace, not even if the intention is to leave him saddled with conflict. This could actually come out, make him look even better if he can get America out of war and bring down the escalation, particularly in the Middle East. He can come out being a hero. But either way, I do think that he and Kennedy both will be determined to try to keep America out of wars and to keep these various conflicts from escalating.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%. And I want to touch on, talking about Russia and Putin and some of the other things that are going on. And I need clarification on something, Andrew, because I keep hearing this, the Trump tariffs on this BRICS group. I literally don't know what that is. Is this a new thing that's going on, or?
Well, not really. BRICS has been around for a long time. So what is BRICS? So BRICS is a coalition of emerging market countries led by Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and they recently invited to join Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Now, the main objective of this group is to de-dollarize. Now, what is de-dollarize? The whole point of de-dollarization is to dethrone King Dollar and erase its, dollar hegemony in global financial markets. Graham was talking about Trump employing economic weapons to achieve his foreign policy objectives. That's something the administration has been clear on. Scott Bessent, the incoming Treasury Secretary, he wrote in a recent Fox News op-ed saying using tariffs will achieve many of these foreign policy aims. You see even the threats of Trump going on Truth Social saying, I'm going to slap 100% tariffs on any country engaging in anti-dollar activities. Now, China, it's been no secret, China and Russia have been at the forefront of this anti-dollar campaign for the last decade. But the thing is that it's accelerated since Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, China's already facing a plethora of tariff threats. You already have the current tariffs in place. Trump wants to impose as much as 100% tariffs on China. He just proposed another 10% tariff on China. So it'd be tariffs if they continue with this anti-dollar campaign. So with China in a very much weakened position compared to the first Trump term, it's very hard to see if China would say, okay, fine, let's continue on with this de-dollarization threat or this risk when they're already suffering and facing slower economic conditions. You look at the other countries, the Indian rupee recently collapsed to an all-time low against the U.S. dollar because of that tariff threat in addition to weaker economic growth. The ruble is worth less than a penny. So it's hard to see if the Russian ruble could survive this current environment. The Brazilian real is weakening. Iran's energy sector could be decimated under a Trump administration. Ethiopia and Egypt, their economy is nothing. So this whole tariff threat against these anti-dollar countries should be very fascinating to observe, especially considering that the current administration has largely ignored this fact for the last few years. And the closest you get is Janet Yellen just repeating over and over again that the U.S. dollar is the reserve currency of the world and there's no real alternative and there's no vile competition out there. And she's for the most part correct. But this is a long-term initiative, and that whether it's premature on Trump's part or he just wants to get the party, he wants to end the party before it even started, it will be quite interesting over the next few years.
So it's the long game.
Indubitably, the long game.
Indubitably. Okay, well, guys, now you know what we know. I just hope, let's just pray for a diplomatic solution and peace on earth, at least for Christmas. And thanks for watching, and thanks, panel. That's it for our Conservative 5 panel today. Check out our other C5 shows and segments on your favorite video platform. YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, we're on them all. As well, Liberty Nation News has its own Roku channel where you can see all of our TV productions. Now, Liberty Nation does not endorse candidates, campaigns, or legislation, and this presentation is no endorsement. I'm your host, Sarah Cowgill. Thanks for joining us today for the latest news and commentary. Your choice for free thinking, free speech, libertynation.com.